Tonight, sacked without warning, councillors and mayors out the door as the government rushes through its forced mergers.
It doesn't seem like a democracy. It's a bit like living in Cuba.
Good evening, Juanita Phillips with ABC News. It's been a day of carnage in local council chambers across the state. Mayors have been sacked and administrators called in as the Baird government forged ahead with its unpopular council mergers. Elections to choose new councillors won't be held until September next year. But the Baird government has backed down on a number of forced mergers after a backlash from residents. Under the reform, 152 councils will be reduced to 115. Today, 19 new councils were created. 17 mergers won't be going ahead. Another 9 mergers are in limbo, pending the outcome of legal challenges. Nick Dole reports.
Mike Baird's picked one of the biggest political fights of his career, and his opponents are lining up to take a swing.
Trashing democracy.
Be afraid. What an absolute joke.
It's just appalling.
Go to buggery.
The Premier says there are too many councils with unsustainable budgets, and he has no choice but to force them to merge.
This is not an easy decision. There has been many groups across the state that don't want to see change.
The government's hoping to reduce Sydney's councils from 43 to 25. The new local governments cover parts of the West, Inner West and Northern Beaches, while councils in the South, North Shore and North West have temporary reprieves while they fight amalgamations in court. Around the Premier's own seat, Manly, Pittwater and Warringah will have to merge.
The culture of Pittwater will disappear. What we have fought for the last 24 years will just down the drain.
In Blue Ribbon Wallara, Liberal councillors are likening the Premier to a communist dictator.
It doesn't seem like a democracy. It's a bit like living in Cuba.
The government wants Wollongong to merge with Shellharbour.
We're losing our city, and I just find it really hard to believe.
But next door, Kiama's been spared a merger with Shoalhaven. The government denies it's simply to shore up federal Liberal Anne Sidmalis, who's facing a close contest in Gilmore.
If you don't live in a frontline coalition federal marginal seat, Mr Baird doesn't care what your view is.
Walker Council's been spared, at least for now.
Ecstatic. We're absolutely thrilled, and our community have worked so hard for this.
Walker's also in a marginal seat, New England, held by Barnaby Joyce.
Deputy Prime Minister Joyce has spoken to me on 2 occasions, just outlined his concerns.
But the government says that had no bearing on the decision and that it's been guided by the Independent Boundaries Commission.
The reason that we have done it is because it's the right thing for ratepayers across the state.
Today's decision also puts critical crossbenchers offside. Fred Niles angry, and the shooters are now refusing to pass any government legislation.
You can't run your government without us, Mike. You've made a bad mistake.
For the Premier, governing just got harder.
Nick Dole joins us now from State Parliament. So, Nick, with all these mayors and councillors sacked, who's running the show?
Well, Juanita, the government's appointed administrators and interim general managers, and it's their job to run the council from today, performing all of the normal tasks that councillors would, including assessing development applications. But these people, of course, are unelected, and there won't be elections in these new councils until September next year. That's 16 months away. Now, the opposition and the minor parties are vowing to try to reverse this in Parliament, but the government has the numbers, so this is a done deal, unless, of course, one of those current court challenges is successful.
And there are also new rules.
The Pittwater community is enraged and in shock at hearing the Baird government's decision to amalgamate Pittwater with Warringah and Manly councils. The chairman of Pittwater Forever, representing 19 community organisations, Tony Tenney, said that all its members felt betrayed, first by their council in not supporting its residents, 89% of whom wanted Pittwater to remain on its present boundary. Secondly, by the Baird government's policy of forced amalgamations and our local members' failure to deliver on the wishes of its constituents in Pittwater. People felt let down and had lost all faith in Planning Minister Rob Stokes. The government's consultation processes were phony and lacked integrity and had led to the diminution of local democracy. Mr Tenney pointed out that Pittwater residents would now go from having 9 out of 9 councillors representing them to having only 3 out of 15 in a massively enlarged local government which could hardly be called local anymore. The government's decisions concerning amalgamations were clearly politically driven. Councils which strongly supported their communities, like Kiama, and others in marginal electorates or which had powerful advocates, were excluded from the forced amalgamation program. This is the reward Pittwater residents get for having faithfully voted Liberal. A slap in the face, and their clearly expressed wish to remain independent swept aside as being of no consequence, simply because we're not a coalition marginal seat like Walker or Kiama. Instead of effective parliamentary representation, we have Rob Stokes, the New South Wales Minister for Planning. He doesn't represent us at all. Rather, he's the opposite face of the smiling assassin, our baby-faced Premier, Mike Baird. On a number of occasions, one of them being on Saturday the 7th of November 2015 at a community leaders briefing session in the Motor Vale conference room of the council building, Rob Stokes said he would resign the New South Wales Parliament if there was one council for the Northern Beaches. Mr Stokes, we expect you to keep your word. You must resign.